Hi, besties! You're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show!
question. All these things I've been doing for so long, so wrong. So much I need not mention, but the need within me is so strong. For so long, I know that the answer is beside me, as I have believed from the start. But it's just so hard for me to go there, despite of all this aching feeling. I just don't want this all to fall apart. And as I look into your eyes, it's more like looking at myself through someone else, like no one else. Oh, this pain and hatred, never knowing from whence it came. I'm playing this game, it's always the same. In all this, there's one thing I could ask you, that you should always remain true. Even if I'm gone, you still remember. It's just hard when nothing's right and everything seems out.
watching The Vomitorium. Did you know that bees make up every percent of my favorite star system? Bees also know that they can go support the show at www.streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Buzz buzz!
Anything other than total victory where they reclaim all the land.
Yeah.
And Russia, like, completely lays down and surrenders everything. Anything other than that is siding with Russia.
Yeah, man, that is weird. I don't get people.
Yeah.
I really don't. And me, like, I wouldn't have a solution. I keep myself so, like, far away from this topic as possible. Like, I don't even read much about it or anything. And, you know, it's like, I really don't care that much about the conflict of two very corrupt countries. Except for the fact that for some reason we're involved in it.
Yeah. Seems to be a money sink. Our money for some reason.
I don't know if it's a money sink. I think even though it looks like a sink at first, is actually beneficial for us, and that's why we're stirring on the conflict. Because aiding and abetting somebody else in war is usually really good for the U.S., especially when we're in a recession.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Because it's like, sure, we're giving all those weapons and stuff on the front, but it's kind of almost like a loan, right? Mm-hmm. Assuming they win whatever they're doing, we get payback for that.
Yeah.
Right? It's an investment, as we've done many times in the past. And it's like, no, I think our country's highly invested in this war because we're in a recession. And I'm like, I wish you would just come up with a better way to solve our recession problems.
Yeah. Well, I guess it worked. It worked when Russia went into Afghanistan.
Yep.
Back in the 80s, we were basically doing the same thing. We were funding whatever the Taliban was or whatever at that time against Russia.
Yep. Well, that's
And it
the
kinda-
problem is that's the biggest or the most reliable export of both of these countries, like ours and Russia, is weapons of war.
Yeah. We're really depleting Russia's military, I think.
Oh yeah.
So that could end up being a good move, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, their military's never been that big to begin with. I know that, just like looking historically. They've just been really strong because they usually fought on the front facing their home. Or if they were going abroad, a lot of times they worked in conjunction with their allies' local militaries, right? Which they obviously don't have on their home front. So, and a lot of their military now is drafted, and in the modern age, a draft military sucks. At least like back in the day when you had peasants and stuff, you could arm anybody with a spear and they'd be okay. You could even arm almost anyone with a bow and arrow, and as long as none of your people were in the line of fire, somebody might hit somebody. That's the important part, right? It's almost like arming people with guns now, except it's like even more dangerous with guns, and you have to rush through the training even quicker because we have these high-speed vehicles where people can be on your front in a moment instead of marching on it over the course of a month. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't think draft armies are a good idea in the modern age because I don't think you can spend 2 months training somebody to be ready for war.
Yep.
Yeah. But, you know, enough about gloomy subject. Hello, people. Sketchbook Chad, thanks for showing up. Welcome to the Vomitorium. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
I'm good.
Are
We
you good?
start. I'm all right. I'm fine. We started out, talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter, and that got into Russia and Ukraine. So. Yeah, I'm fine. A little sleepy, but I'll be all right.
Tongue's a little sore.
Yeah.
What's on the docket for today? Quite a few different things. As I was saying before, I think today is kind of a roast day for the most part because a lot of companies have been doing a lot of stupid shit lately. But before we get into our roasts, apparently, actually here we go, info box. I'm going to put, got milk. Milk has declared itself the official performance drink of gamers. Now, I don't know how that happens because milk isn't even like a singular entity. That's why I always didn't understand those Got Milk campaigns, other than the fact that, like, you know, the government was trying to promote people to drink more milk, which helps the entire milk industry more than it does individuals. But yeah, it's I don't know. Because if I were to guess what was the official performance drink of gamers, I would think of something that's not even really a performance drink other than being a stimulant, and I would go with Mountain Dew. That would have been my first thing.
Well, I mean, milk tends to produce a lot of phlegm. You'd think that would be problematic for.
Well, and like, unless you have like specific genes, right, or were raised on milk, like after breastfeeding, like you had to continuously still drink it. A large portion of the world is lactose intolerant, including Asia, where a lot of like gamers come from.
Yeah.
This seems
I
like
don't even
very
think like
industry propaganda.
Yeah. Are they even allowed to call soy milk anymore? I thought they got sued or something. And
No clue. I know, what is that, silk stuff? Is like the modern branding or whatever. It's like milk, but it really isn't.
yeah, and like almond milk is not really milk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I assume this is cow's milk specifically.
Yes, I am assuming. One of the things is you can find "Gonna Need Milk" listed among the presenting sponsors for TwitchCon this year.
Okay.
And it even says, this year, milk has become the official performance drink of gamers. Now, this is actually where it becomes like a form of propaganda. Just because you're a sponsor of TwitchCon doesn't mean you represent gamers. In fact, Twitch is a shrinking environment, not a growing one. So I think it's even less of a depiction of what gamers represent them.
Yeah. I hear our good friend, just call him Mr. or Mrs. Sorrenti, is going to be at TwitchCon. Keffels.
Oh, okay. I do remember. Keffels, it goes by Claire Sorrenti. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently going to be at TwitchCon, which is not that I was going to go anyway because there's no reason for me to go, but
Yeah, but
that's good enough to stay away. That's.
I think I had
reason.
interest in going to TwitchCon back in like 2013 or 14 at some point, but like I definitely haven't since Gamergate for sure. Like since it blew up. I mean, I think the first one, when the first year of Gamergate in 2014, TwitchCon was still sane, but I think it also happened before it really blew up. So like 2015 would be the first one during it, and everything just got crazy after that. Like I have no interest in going to this place. Same with VidCon. I used to have interest in going to VidCon because I was like really into YouTube production back in the day. That was like something I did even if I never got big on it. And I was like into a lot of the creators and stuff, and be cool to meet them. But like now with the way the Green Brothers, since they're the ones who run VidCon, are, it's like I have no interest in going to places like that. They all suck. It says, is Pepsi the official drink of marsupial gaming?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is my official drink. But I'm not drinking Pepsi today. I'm gonna had to skimp out and try to save some money and get that Dr. Thunder in there. Because it's really, really hard to pass up on something that costs less than $1.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
When I briefly worked at Walmart, I used to buy the 2-liter cream soda.
Oh yeah, the cream soda is like really good.
I want to say it was. How was the 2-liter like 50 cents or something ridiculous?
They used to be. They're all about like 97 cents now. You know, prices have gone up, but yeah, at one point they were like 50 cents.
Yeah.
At one point,
like,
not too long ago, like, you know, a couple years, but.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god, I can, there's calories there that I can live on.
Yeah, man.
2-liter cream soda.
You know, I remember when me and my brother were struggling real hard back in like 2014 through 16 when we were in Arlington. At like the height of Gamergate and stuff, and also, I guess this is where I like 2015ish, 16 is where I count the start of Comicsgate, even though the hashtag wasn't there, because that's about when everybody was talking about like the failure of comic stores going down, and we were worried about like if it drops below this number, then comic stores are doomed, and things like that. We just didn't get the title until like 2017. But I remember back then we were struggling so hard. There was a Quick Trip across the street, and you could get like a liter cup from Quick Trip for I think maybe 75 cents or whatever, and that we would each get one, and that'd be our thing that got us through the day.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
Yeah.
At the I think there's some Quick Trips in like Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah.
Where I would go and get the gigantic thing of soda.
And
it was literally
Thunder
like
is not the dollar store brand. It is the discount brand though. You can get it at Walmart.
It's the Walmart brand.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, it's just like a matter of I literally have like virtually no money for food. So what can I buy that has the most calories per penny, you know?
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'd be literally, hungry.
Sometimes you scrape by and it's like, ooh, I can get a hot dog. Those aren't too expensive.
Yeah, right. I think those are $1.
Yeah.
Like if you bought one like already and cooked with a bun.
I think they're a little bit higher now, but they're still pretty close. I think because I got one recently, and I think I spent like $1.25 on it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the fixings come with it. Like you just take it over to the counter, you put like whatever you want on there, onions. Occasionally, I would put like pico de gallo on a hot dog by itself, and that was pretty good.
They also have like pre-made like and cooked and ready to eat like chicken wings.
Yeah.
That
And
are really
taquitos
good.
and all kinds of stuff that are just like sitting there. Quick Trip is a
Man.
great place to eat when you have no money.
Yeah. Oh no, I was thinking Walmart. That's what I
Walmart
was,
too. Walmart also is a great place to eat when you have no money. Like you said, go up to the kind of like bakery hot food section at the front.
Yeah, yeah. Remarkably
Another good
cheap.
one. You have to have a membership for it, but honestly, it was worth it just to like scrimp by for the membership. We had a Costco membership, and we weren't even buying a lot of groceries, but we more than made up for it by going there like every other day because you could get like a hot dog and a drink for like $1.50. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously that's $1.50 plus what was already spent on the membership, but you only spend the membership once per year, so it's just like $1.50 each day. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I won't pretend that I understand, people who have lived in poverty for years at a time, go through, but I got a very unpleasant taste of that.
Oh, I know what it was like.
for several months. Yeah, Peach tells me stories because she grew up in abject poverty, of like because she's always been a smoker.
Yeah.
And she would, the little bit of tobacco at the end, she'd save that, and when she had enough, roll it up into a new one.
Oh yeah. My parents would, like my dad, because we walk everywhere. Even when we have vehicles, we still walk everywhere because gas is expensive. So like what he would do is he would look on the ground and he would find buds, right? Just like things that still have ends on it, and they'd clean it up as much. But when you're a smoker and you're desperate, it's whatever you can get.
Yeah.
And they're doing better off now, like they smoke. But like for a long time,
Yeah,
like he'd bring some home to my mom. He's like, look, I got some buds.
Oh God. Yeah. No, she never resorted to that.
And
At
I
least
got
it was
really
her own.
familiar with like our local food pantry and stuff like that. And you get used to certain things like dehydrated milk. You know what? It may not be the same as milk that comes out of the jug, but it's great when you want some cereal in the morning and if nothing else. Get used
Well, I
to
used
all
to
the
use
canned
that.
goods.
I used to use that at camp. I used to use dehydrated milk
Well,
at
a
camp.
lot of our breakfast was basically like camp breakfast because that's the type of stuff that we could get for breakfast from the food pantries and stuff like that. Because you can't keep milk on the shelf at the food pantry, but you could keep like bags of dehydrated milk and powdered milk, cans of dehydrated milk, things like that. Have I tried goat milk? Yes, I have tried goat milk. It's actually pretty
I
good.
think so. I mean, I've tried goat cheese.
Yeah. I've only tried like fairly fresh goat milk, so much like any fairly fresh milk, it's got a very different taste than the highly pasteurized stuff that ends up in your like stores and stuff. But honestly, it wasn't that much different than when I had fresh cow milk, so it was pretty good. Does have a slightly distinct taste to it though. You can kind of tell, and that's probably because like young goats and young cows need slightly different nutrients from each other. So.
Yeah, I watched an old episode of The Office. Well, they're all old, but there's this one scene where they're at Dwight Schrute's farm, and I think Pam asked for milk or something, and he's like, "What kind of animal or whatever?" She's like, "I'm thinking cow." Yeah, cow sounds good.
I love cows. Cows are great.
Yeah.
I grew up in a cow town. Well, actually, kind of a mix. It was just kind of a livestock town in general. The town was still fairly big, but it's Texas, so a lot of people were still running their like ranches and stuff. And there's one goat farm that's still there. Bunch of goats passing by. I like to walk by them when I'm in town, and they all come by anytime anyone walks by, and they all kind of like get nosy and they want to see them. And then on the way to the other Walmart, the neighborhood market, the green one, there's still a large cow field that somebody owns there, and you could see the cows just kind of grazing in the background, and sometimes they'll be laying underneath a tree or whatever. They don't really lay though; they kind of like get down on all four. It almost looks like they're sitting, but it's just how cows are.
Yeah. So, I was surprised that I guess you don't like the Super Mario movie poster.
Okay, there are things I like about it, but on the whole, no. Right? Actually, pull it up.
I watched a review or a video by Arlo on it, and of course he is like super excited in every way imaginable.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't have any. I don't think he had anything negative to say about it.
I've got some negative things to say about it. For sure. I'm waiting for the poster to pop up. Maybe I'll pull it up on screen as soon as I get it.
I think he's just giddy that there's going to be a Pikmin 4.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay.
If you ever watch Arlo, he's a real Pikmin fanatic.
Trying to center it. Let me change our topic. Mario movie, because we're going to be working on that now.
Seth Rogen, Donkey Kong.
Seth fucking Rogen, man. He's involved in like everything these days. Have you ever actually paid attention to like half the shit you watch produced by Seth Rogen?
Not really.
The Boys is produced by Seth Rogen.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah. He's involved in everything.
I was gonna say, I think I saw some Seth Rogen movie for the first time. Is it The End? Is that what it's called?
I've seen that one. Yeah. Where it's like the apocalypse, and at some point, like, frickin' Watson comes in, busting down their door. Frickin' Hermione Granger, right?
Yeah. Emma Watson. Yeah, it's just funny because like all the actors are just playing themselves. So of course, almost all of them go to hell, and
yeah. Yeah, so I've got it up.
All right.
There's our poster in front of us, right? And I don't know, man. I'm not really liking a lot of this. Some things I do like, right? I like the toads. I think the toads actually look really good. I was kind of afraid they were gonna fuck the toads up altogether. In fact, it kind of gave them a little longer legs than normal, so that instead of looking like they're wearing a diaper, they actually look like they're wearing like these Arabic harem pants that you kind of always assumed that they were wearing.
Yeah, I'd have to look again what they look like in the games, because I thought they looked just like almost identical.
Almost. Usually they're a little more stout. Right, like even their arms are a little shorter. They just took their body and stretched it up tiny bits so that the pants work. But they're mostly almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Some of the enemies and stuff that you see in the foreground are probably good. I like most of this little tiny Toad Town part in the front. The foreground, aside from Mario, looks fine. Even kind of like you see like these Yoshi fruit on the sign right here at this fruit stand, like the ones that you see in Yoshi's Story and Yoshi's Island. I like the antique things. You can see like the C blocks and the C switches and the note blocks and stuff from the game right there at the antique store. I think that's a nice little touch. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it looks like Mario's doing his butt squeeze exercise. I'm already having trouble with the way Mario looks just from this rear view, right? One, a lot of people have said that Mario's ass is the new butt gate. Right, like after last time people were complaining about Snake's ass in Smash Brothers. They're always complaining about somebody's ass in Smash. Anne from Persona, when she showed up in the background, looked like her ass was shaved off. Zero Suit Samus a little bit. More people were upset about Snake than anything, because Snake always had some cake in his cheeks. But Mario is a plumber, a blue-collar plumber of all things, should have some plumber crack, as some people say. It looks like he has no ass.
Well, I'm looking at like the way he looked in Super Mario Odyssey, and the line between, like, why is there a line where it looks like he's wearing almost a shirt? Because it's overalls. There should be one straight. There's
that kind of seems like the seam. I've seen overalls with a seam like that, right?
Yeah.
They're coveralls more than
yeah.
anything, right? They come all the way up.
the line
I've seen
right
it
above
like
his
that.
butt.
It's not very common.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And the hat has a weird fold. I don't know. It's really
No, that
nitpicky.
actually, the fold there is kind of like Mario's hat. If you've ever seen the older drawings of Mario, right, it's kind of drawn with that kind of bend there. That's just the way you would
Yeah, I
show the
guess.
bend in like 3D. But more importantly, his hair. Look at the back of Mario's hair. It kind of whips at the very bottom, but Mario, he almost has like a mullet if you look at Mario's hair, right? He's got like this big like flip in the back. They always draw it kind of bubbly. Because of how much it's supposed to be flipping back and the flip in the front. And all it is like these tiny little flips, and his hair is almost straight otherwise. And the reason he almost has a mullet is because he's got hat hair, right? Like it's almost flat at the top where the hat would be pulling it down, but like even in the big bulge at the front, his hair flips upwards, right? And his hair flips back, and he kind of has like a party going on because he's a blue-collar worker. I don't know. I'm having issues with this, and we'll get to even more issues on how a McDonald's employee might have leaked what Mario's face looks like. We might actually have a front view of Mario, and I'll pull it up after we're done with the rest of this poster. But I really don't like the setup for Peach's Castle here. Like, I get a lot of the stuff in between. The mid-ground kind of actually show off things that are like Mario level design and things.
Yeah,
like
the
that,
pipes.
right? Yeah.
The pipes are kind of cool.
You see
I'm
a
not
lot
sure
of
why they're like.
platforming.
Yeah.
It looks like platforming is going to be involved in the movie, which you would want in a Mario movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to see here, but there's like blocks floating in the air going up and off, kind of off to the right.
I like the
sort
floating
of
islands because there's
floating
always been
island,
like floating land masses in Mario, so that's pretty good. I don't like how Peach's Castle, though, is on top of a mountain.
Yeah. Now, it could just be the poster.
It could. Like, her castle may not be up there, but the problem when it comes to 3D stuff like this, right, is unlike back when you would draw a unique 2D poster, most studios, when they do 3D stuff, they literally just take the assets from the movie and then just make like a nice image out of all the assets. So I'm inclined to believe that is the actual setup for Peach's Castle. Maybe she has more than one castle. And Peach's Castle was set up kind of on a hill in Odyssey, but not like that, right? Because the way Odyssey was done is it was somewhat like the Super Mario 64 area, but it wasn't quite like it, right? And there was like these rolling hills, and there was still a moat around it and stuff. But like this is just like, I don't know, it's very, very off-putting and weird that Peach's Castle is on top of a mountain.
Maybe Bowser picked it up from where it regularly is and put it up there temporarily, like to steal the whole castle or something.
Well, I mean, even here, like, I think Mario's new to the area, so I think this is probably before Bowser attacks. This toad in the front almost looks like he's showing Mario, like, the town and, like, the castle and everything.
Yeah.
You see, he's got, like, his arms up, and it looks like he's looking dead on at Mario.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shouldn't Bowser's Castle be on top of the mountains, hence the airships? You'd think if anybody, like, Bowser's Castle should be on, like, a fucking volcano or something like that. It's usually surrounded by lava.
Maybe, I mean, we don't know. Maybe this becomes a volcano and the castle
it explodes.
gets dark and converts into Bowser's Castle or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's just,
And why do the
not
hills and
reading too
clouds not
much.
have eyes? Damn it!
yeah, that's true. Where are the eyes? The hills should have eyes.
They should. Yeah. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I like the foreground. There are aspects of the midground I like, but after we get past like the midground, I'm not having it really for this poster. And I don't like the way Mario looks. I'll jump over now. Oh, I actually just noticed there's a Cheap shop. I think that's a cafe.
Yeah, there's a toad carrying a Cheap in a
Yeah,
bag.
like a goldfish. Yeah.
Yeah,
That I
thought
saw.
was
I
cute.
didn't notice the shop behind him until now.
Yeah, the blue windows there.
Yeah, but
I was like, can you zoom in on this at all? Or?
I could. I have to jump back to it. What I can do is I can open it in a new tab, which will let me zoom in a lot. There, you can see the. It'll take a second, but yeah, you can see the cheap sheet and stuff.
Oh, there we go. Now we're talking. And what are those little guys called?
I forgot those
Little
things.
colorful
names, 'cause
guys.
they've been around before, but they're mostly like 3D Land and Odyssey and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, where's Lakitu? That would have been good. Is Lakitu, maybe he's filming this.
Maybe he's the documentarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
so
aspects of this I like. I like the little Mario 3 treasure chest sprite up here on the shop sign. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There are things you could tell, like they're at least looking at the games. There are some people who have played the games that are working on this, or at least looked enough at them. So like, I don't know. It could be good. It could be bad. I'm still not holding my breath on it. But yeah, so we jump over, and it looks like a McDonald's employee may have accidentally leaked Mario's face. We're not sure if this is true or not, but it's spreading everywhere. And part of the outfit kind of matches the design of the back of Mario that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And it does kind of look like they somewhat stretched it to fit Chris Pratt a little bit more. But
Yeah,
honestly,
works.
so my thing is, it looks like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show Mario, just done in 3D.
That just looks off.
It does.
Like, trying to now I need a picture of, okay. Yeah, like his face is too round.
Because he's
It
got
needs
like the
to be-
cheeks, right, that are like in the Super Show had the cheeks, right?
Yeah.
Because Mario usually it's just kind of like a curve. Yeah, he almost has like
Yeah.
a circular head. Who was writing and directing this? I forgot. I looked it up at one point.
It's just weird.
Yeah. But apparently this was a McDonald's leak. I mean, it could be. If anybody's going to leak it, McDonald's would probably have promotional advertising for it. There's probably going to be a Happy Meal toy run that comes out around the time that the movie's actually launching. But we'll see by tomorrow. Because tomorrow is the first trailer of the movie. There's going to be a Nintendo Direct for it. You'll be working at the time that happens because it's going to be, I think, 3 o'clock our time in the afternoon. But I set an alarm for 2:30 to make sure that I'm available. I might hop onto this channel right here. If somebody else in our little community wants to hop on with me and watch it and either rip or praise the thing. Like, I'm going in there hopeful, like, I would like to compliment it. I'm probably going to end up roasting it, though. Just all things. Especially if that's the image. Now, I actually probably would have loved that design for Mario if we were still working with, like, the Super Show aspect, or even, like, really old versions of Mario, because Mario used to kind of be drawn that way in the instruction manuals and stuff. He used to have, like, rounded cheeks and things like that, but Mario hasn't been depicted that way for quite some time, ever since, like, the 64.
It's weird. It's like, couldn't they just get the model from Super Mario Odyssey?
I know, that's what everybody else is saying. It's like, you have a 3D model, just give it to them.
You could almost like take the Odyssey engine and just do the whole movie in that.
Could have.
Know?
Yeah. I mean, they're doing movies in the Unreal Engine now. Why not just use an engine? You probably don't even have to make like a recorder or player for it, because there were already cutscenes that were done in engine in there. So the capacity to like record in engine already exists. You could just make a bunch of cutscenes, even if there's like a limit, like, well, we couldn't really get it to do a cutscene more than like 10 minutes long. That's fine, because you could just make each scene like 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can put them together in post like any other movie. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Skitswick says, what happened to the VTuber co-host of yours? Did you have a VTuber
he's still right here. Yeah, you.
Oh.
You remember you came on as as your actual marsupial a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Has Sketchbook not been here since then? It's been a while.
Nice.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Also, I think the thing that bothers me the most out of this whole thing is not even his face. It's the gloves. I don't like the gloves, right? They're kind of realistic. I mean, that is more of how gloves would be. But also, why would you use white gloves anyway if you were a plumber? Mario's design was already a little unrealistic. So can we just give him the gloves with the rounded, puffy ends that he's supposed to have? I don't like how flat they are. That's the thing that bothers me.
Yeah, he
Mario's
really wears
not
like
realistic. I want his cartoony nature.
He really wears like Mickey Mouse gloves.
Almost, yeah.
What's funny is, like, I know it's going the opposite direction, but like Disney would never allow like a modern video game featuring Mickey Mouse to have a Mickey Mouse that looks different from the way he looks in the movies.
Yeah, or at least some media that they're doing now, right? Because you saw the recent game for Mickey Mouse that was announced not too long ago, right? It's almost like a Super Mario, or like a new Super Mario Brothers or whatever, where it's a 4-player co-op platformer. I can't remember the name of it. It's, the plot's actually kind of closer to Rayman Legends, but it's that type of 4-player platformer, and it looks like the way Mickey and all them look in the recent Disney Channel shorts, right? It doesn't look that much like a historic Mickey Mouse, but you know, they're fudging it. But it looks exactly like they do in the shorts, so it's not like they aren't already using an on model for something Disney was using, right? And that's typically how it runs with Disney stuff.
Yeah, but you look at, you know, Mickey in Kingdom Hearts 3 or whatever, and it's like 1-to-1. It looks exactly the way he looks.
Oh, whoa. Kingdom Hearts in general was probably the most on model any adaptation of a Disney property has been. Even when they're trying to work with like real people, sure, you could argue that the Pirates of the Caribbean sucked in 2 the way they looked, but then you go and look at Kingdom Hearts 3 when they bring the pirates in, and they look a little uncannily too real for like Sora, Donald, and Goofy to be standing around, but they still managed to make Sora, Donald, and Goofy kind of match the new Pirates aesthetic, and like they do such a good job. I wish, oh man, why didn't Square still use their studio to do stuff? Like, I think that's the bigger thing. I don't want to hire Square to make a game for another company, because I think Square, when they make like licensed games, tend to suck at it for the most part. Outside of Kingdom Hearts, which really isn't a licensed game, it's just like frickin' Nomura playing in a sandbox or whatever, you know. But like their film studio, though, their CG studio is top notch. If I were to pay them to make something for anything, it would just be the Square Pictures. Should have paid Square to make the Mario movie. They probably would have done it right.
Yeah, really.
Let's see, former Disney wouldn't allow that. Now, as long as Mickey is wearing a rainbow pin or flag, they wouldn't care. Yeah, probably.
Did you see Multiverse of Madness? That movie?
Yes,
Doctor
I did.
Strange.
I did see that movie. It was probably the worst Marvel movie I've seen to date.
Yeah. I just thought
And
it was funny that
I've seen Love and Thunder, and I didn't think it could get worse than that because I went back and I had to watch Multiverse after Love and Thunder.
I just thought it was funny. America Chavez was wearing the pride pin with the little zigzag part.
Well, I know last time we really talked about it, you had seen it and I didn't. And I actually do kind of agree with you. The one thing I really didn't hate about the movie was America Chavez. And it's mostly because she wasn't America Chavez, or at least like what we were used to. She was just like a girl that had a similar power that was there, which usually would be a big complaint of mine for most other things Marvel. But because America Chavez is such an annoying character, that was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't agree with the people that said it was very MCU, or that, you know, she was like that Doctor Strange, you know, played second fiddle in his own movie because she didn't do anything.
She was more of a sidekick that was just there.
Yeah.
You know, she was
Yeah,
like
she didn't do anything.
what's his name? She's like Short Round. That's all she basically was. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, she was
funny,
like,
though. I liked her bits. Like, she was the experienced person who had been jumping between worlds, and she was a kid. So like, she would have a good point, but then be immediately wrong about it because she's an idiot. And I'm like, no, I don't think that was bad writing. I think that was actually probably one of the few good parts of the writing where the humor landed.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, it's weird because most worlds don't use money. And then she like eats something. It's like, oh, I guess this is not one of those worlds. Right? Like that was a funny bit to me. I liked that.
Yeah. Pizza balls.
You know, the sad part is that's not even like I think they were trying to act like that's some type of multiverse thing, but there are people doing that here. Like pizza balls are a thing in our world, so you're not that creative, MCU people.
There was a recent review report of the week review.
Oh, I love report of the week. Yeah,
he did this review of some pizza product. I don't remember if it was Papa John's or Domino's or what it was, but it was basically just pizza toppings in a box.
Yeah,
like it was basically pizza without the crust, and it was apparently disgusting.
It sounds disgusting.
Yeah, he was like, it's just a sloppy mess. He's like, this is the worst, like one of the worst dishes I've ever tried.
And like some of the pizza toppings, if you would cook them the way you would for pizza or whatever, right, are awful if they're not on pizza. Like you can eat pepperoni on like raw or like uncooked and it's fine, right? Just the sausage.
Yeah.
But then like if you were to cook a pepperoni like you would on pizza and then just eat that without the pizza, it would be greasy and disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Sketchbook has this Papa John's Papa Bowl. He did not recommend it. It was
Is it at least
barely just
in sauce?
I guess I can't remember. It's been like a month or two. He did that, but he just said it's awful. It was just like a greasy,
you
sloppy
catch me
mess.
dead going to Papa John's in the first place. Like, not even anything to do with the fact that Papa John got canceled. Because I like the idea of them bringing Shaq in as their spokesman. They should have just renamed it Pizza Shack. That would have been a great thing to do. No, I never liked Papa John's food. It was fucking disgusting. I'd rather go to the actual pizzeria down the place. Like you barely even catch me eating something like Domino's. I think all of those fast food pizza places are barely real pizza.
Yeah. Yep. I like regular Papa John's pizza. Okay, it's not terrible.
Like I would eat it if I was at somebody else's place and they already bought it, because I wouldn't let the food go to waste. But you're not going to catch me like buying it myself. The only time I ever really got like fast food pizza was from Domino's, and that's because they were open after midnight. Like I could still get them to deliver up to 1 o'clock, and that's it. If a normal pizzeria was open at that time, I would have went there instead. I would have walked and carried it back. Just to make up, like, I don't need delivery if it means I'm going to get better pizza out of it.
Yeah.
Sketch says the Shack pizza was good. Was that the jumbo-sized one with like extra pepperonis on it? Like the whole thing was just covered in pepperoni. It was I think it was like a 16-inch pizza just smothered in pepperoni. I think that was the Shack pizza with like extra thick crust. It was supposed to be like super carbs for somebody like Shaq to be able to get full on it, like, or like an athlete or something.
Sounds very greasy.
Yeah.
A lot of pepperoni.
But see, if I was Shaq, I would literally just open up my own pizza place and call it Pizza Shack. It sells itself. Like, everybody would want to go and eat at Pizza Shack at least once to have said they ate Pizza Shack.
There was a place, I think it was in Florida, where I used to go on vacation with my family, called the Sugar Shack.
Yeah.
I think it was ice cream mostly.
Ice cream. Yeah. I like almost any like mom and pop shop. Like most of them are pretty good. At least if they've been running for like more than a couple years. Because especially like a restaurant or eatery, any type, those are the most volatile business. It's really easy to just go out of business as a restaurant. So anything that lasts like 3 years or more, it's probably good. Because that's the only way they could last. See, Sketchbook's got one called Alamo Pizza nearby that's expensive but great. Yeah, I usually like, specifically with pizza, mom and pop shops. We go to a Joe's Pizza Pasta Sub around here. The one I grew up, there was like a Sam's Pizza Pasta Sub. Usually the best pizza places are like some person's first name, pizza, pasta, and subs. Like that's usually, you go there, you're probably going to have a good time. A lot of them tend to be from like New York and New Jersey, so like they picked up pizza there, they came down here. Usually you'll see that they serve Pepsi, and you're like, oh my god, some place that actually has Pepsi on their menu that isn't Taco Bell. It's like, you know it's a good place. Because everyone up in like the tri-state area, they drink Pepsi with their meals. Like that's the soda that they drink with it. So like every pizza place has like a Pepsi there.
Yeah. There's a place in Phoenix called Hungry Howie's.
Howie's. I like the sound of that.
Has very good calzones.
Yeah.
And wings. Buffalo wings.
I remember we talked about this before, and I was surprised they were still in business because they came back as a pizza truck. But one of my favorite places down in Austin was Hoek's Death Metal Pizza, which I guess they can't get the death metal part of it quite so much anymore since they're only operating as a food truck. But they used to have like actual people come in and play like metal shows in their cafe or their restaurant while people were eating. But the pizza was phenomenal, so I'm glad that they're still doing things.
Yeah. Well,
oh yeah, we were gonna roast some more things. Where is it? Fucking Overwatch. Oh my god, have you seen how bad the launch was? I wasn't even gonna talk about Overwatch, except like the launch was really bad, so it made me happy.
Yeah, a little bit here and there. Like, I know that like if you owned the original Overwatch, if you bought it, then you could like carry over like
they just
characters.
Gave you all of the characters from the original game if you owned a copy. Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to play for like 100 hours to get to unlock those characters, or something like that.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, but it's even worse than that. So, we did talk about some of the things you needed, like how you needed a phone number to even play the game.
Oh, right.
It's free to play. Yeah. And it has to be a month-to-month contract. It can't be prepaid. It can't be voice over IP. We talked all about that last time.
Is that the case even with the Switch version?
Yes, because it has to be linked to your Battle.net account.
Okay.
Right? So even to play the Switch version, you have to log in with your Battle.net account.
Overreach. That's a good one. I don't know if that was an intentional typo or not, but I guess
I'll
we
take
called it
it.
overreach.
Yeah, because it really is what it is. When they could have just, added more characters to the original Overwatch, there was like no reason to make a sequel. When you look at the gameplay, seems almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a valid mobile phone number to play the game.
Yep.
You can't even get like a Google Voice number or anything
Nope.
like that.
And it has to be contract. It can't be prepaid. That's stupid. And they could tell because there will be like quick ping, but you get ping back. Even Discord. I tried to use my Google Voice to verify phone for Discord verification to be able to get into Eden, which is a server for Final Fantasy XI, a private server, and they require phone verification for you to chat in there to get your code and stuff like that. And I'm like, shit, my Discord's not phone verified. So I went and like, do I know somebody with a phone who will never use Discord? And I went and I borrowed my dad's phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really stupid.
It's very disconcerting, these things like being able to glean information from your phone number.
Oh yeah.
What type of phone it is and that kind of stuff. And it's also disconcerting when like I use privacy occasionally, privacy.com,
Yeah.
which gives you like a temporary credit card number, and it doesn't work everywhere.
Yeah, they could tell.
And I'm like, why doesn't it work? Like,
because their temporary credit card numbers register
Yeah,
the same as a prepaid debit card.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's bothersome that they can tell. It's like a Visa. It should just work everywhere.
Well, it should. And it's always been bothersome, but I think it's people haven't realized how long it's been bothersome. Ever since the split between credit and debit cards, they've been able to tell like all the way back then. And also, since mobile phones became a thing, they've always been able to ping back whether this is a mobile number or a landline, like to a house. And that's because every number has to go to an operator. Now, all the operators now are automated at like the hub of like whatever service you get your phone number from, and that's why you usually have to contact the service so they can get the number transferred over there, because it has to be put into their new automated operator, but it pings back to the service. So all the services will have to be able to tell where the operator is connecting this to a landline or a mobile line. So voice over IP also registers as something else. Apparently prepaid is always registered as something else, but it's just the way these automated operators work, and it's always worked this way. And I'm not saying that's any less concerning. It's been concerning longer than most people realize that it's been concerning.
Yeah. Should have passed a law to say the other end should not be able to get information at all from what kind of phone number they're talking
Because
to.
you remember, for a while, you couldn't do collect calls to prepaid numbers.
Oh.
Yeah. Like when all that stuff was really new, and it was because of the prepaid service and how collect calls would basically burn the minutes on one end. And you know how people were with collect calls. They would make their name their message real quick so they wouldn't have to pay for anything. But that still cost you a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the worst part of Overwatch. It was the actual launch, right? So all that stuff we knew the pre-launch. Then there's the actual launch where, do you remember how bad the lines were? Like I showed you for Final Fantasy 14 when Endwalker launched, and it was like you would sit like place 2,000 in queue to get into the server or whatever. Well, Final Fantasy also had multiple servers. And most of that was just for the free-to-play people. So, like, people paying a subscription, they could still get in reasonably. There's only one server per region for Overwatch. And they were having an even worse time. Like, I thought it was ridiculous that you could make it worse than the Endwalker launch. And some people were, like, 40,000, 50,000 place in queue. And by the time they did finally get into, like, the actual 4 digits, a lot of times they'd get an error that would just reset them back to like 40,000 in queue. and there were people waiting in line. I think Chad was the one who posted this in the Discord. There was a streamer. Oh, no, it was Buck. Chad responded to him. Buck said there was a streamer who was live for 5 hours just bullshitting on stream, like just chatting to get into the game. And when he finally reached the front of the queue, it just reset back to like the 40,000 point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
which I thought probably did great for a channel, because you know how those anticipation waits do for just building up a stream. It's like, oh, he's been waiting for 3 hours. He's going to get in the game anytime. Let me hop in stream and stuff like that.
Mark Kearns said that they're experiencing a DDoS attack.
I don't think that's the case.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but
it.
I really don't think that's the case.
Mm.
And I don't think there needs to be a case for that, unless they're using it as a way to make it seem like the game's more popular than it is, but I don't think so. Because even with all the BS around it, there are plenty of people who are willing to put their phone number in there. And Overwatch 1 was such a hype game that I could see some people wanting to get in at the beginning just to check it out. Like, enough people that it would clog their service. Like, I think the login is their DDoS attack.
I guess. You'd think by now they would be able to scale their servers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, instantly.
Well, you would also think they would have a good estimate about how big the server would need to be, just by how, like looking at Overwatch at its peak. Even if you didn't think this was going to do as well as the first one, just use whatever the peak of the number was, and you should be safe.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be an issue. Like, if we were talking about physical servers,
yeah,
you would say, well, are they really going to spend all this money to handle this super huge peak when they're just not going to need it anymore in a week or two?
Yeah.
But surely we're talking about virtual servers, and
you
like,
would think
they should be able to spin it up and bring it, up and down. And I mean, I don't know, but you could do that with, Microsoft Azure. You could spin up servers as you need it.
That's what they're
bring it
using
down
now,
and,
too, right?
Yeah.
Like, even I don't know what they were using before, whether they were using Azure, whether they're using AWS or whatever. But after, like, the acquisition still hasn't gone through, but it's been pretty much confirmed that it's going through now, that you think that they would be using Microsoft's web services like Azure. Which actually, that might be part of the problem if we think about it. If they were using another service before, and they just switched over, this is probably one of the first games that they're going to be using the new service with, maybe it's incompetency screwed it up, working with it. I wouldn't be surprised. Blizzard's wildly incompetent. Yeah. Sketchbook asked, what is a DDoS attack? I know the broad strokes of it, but you might know it more technically than me if you want to explain it.
Yeah, it's basically when hackers, they'll essentially hijack other people's, usually they have to hijack other people's PCs and then, with like a virus or something. And then they use all of these client PCs to try and log into the server. It's essentially a bunch of zombie computers that, try to...
It's a flood.
Try to flood the server with requests to make it look like, there's millions of people trying to log in when there's really not. And they essentially prevent real people from logging in.
Well, from my understanding, I think it's even worse now than it used to be, because you can perform like DDoSes with virtual machines.
Yeah, that's true.
So you could actually just clone a whole bunch of virtual machines if you have like a server space for it, and you could just have all those virtual machines connect in and flood a service.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. You would think that like people that perform these things, they'd be able to track them down and I don't know, do something about it.
Sometimes they do. One of the big problems is, especially when it comes to virtual machines, they do a lot of this on like foreign servers, right? Like Russian servers and stuff like that, to where it's actually really hard to track past the server back to them.
Yeah.
But occasionally, we do actually see like the arrest reports of people who've committed DDoS attacks and stuff, because they are violating laws in some cases and things like that.
Probably more of like if they tried to do it to a bank or something, or, some sort of major business. The answer to Sketchbook's question is exactly what you said. The answer is to troll Blizzard.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's most DDoS attacks are literally just to troll people.
Yeah, to prevent people from logging in.
Yeah. That's why, like, I think Destiny made this point recently. I was watching one of his videos because people always try to claim him about like sicking his audience on them and trying to ruin his life. It's like, no. If you have a big enough audience, you could really ruin somebody's life if you wanted to, because effectively you don't need virtual machines. If your audience is big enough, you could perform a DDoS just by telling them all to like just attack somebody all at once. Right? It's like, oh, hey, this person has a website. Let's just kill their website overnight.
Yeah.
Right. They can't.
Oh well. Effectively, that's what happens every time, and I guess it's just because it's on a crappy server. Every time someone talks about the grifties, you seen grifties.com?
I've heard of it. I haven't actually been there or anything, but
yeah, like people like Nick Rekieta, he wants to be number one, the top grifter on the internet. And every time on his show, when he says go to grifties.com and vote for me, the site crashes. Yeah. You can't log in because it's just like and it's, it'll be like 5,000 people trying to log in at once. So I guess that server must not be able to handle very many. But that's what it is effectively. It's just getting a bunch of people or a bunch of virtual bots to log into a server all at once and not really crash it, but slow it down so everybody else is annoyed. Yeah, I don't understand. Usually you can mitigate that stuff pretty quickly. Like, that's what things like Cloudflare just do automatically. Yeah. On a website. They just don't allow that many connections to come in all at once. And usually, I remember with video game servers like this, they can usually isolate that it's coming from this one IP block or something, and they can just block a whole bunch of IP addresses. Yeah. And then it's like, there, it's gone. Maybe it'll take a minute or two, but it feels like if they got people on it, they can just block, and just prevent those things. So
I know Cloudflare specifically. It's kind of like location, right? So one of the good ways to try to get around it is to come from a server, but then instead of doing a direct connection, is rerouting through one of the big distribution hubs. So like Ashford, Virginia is one of the largest networking hubs in the world, right? Like almost all data goes through there, at least on the East Coast, even for most of like North America in general. There's a couple other ones in the US, but Ashford is like the biggest one. So like if you route it through there first, then almost all data looks like it's coming out of Ashford, right? And you can't block a mass amount of data coming out of there because like the network knows that is a hub, right? So that has to kind of be whitelisted. So then they have like other protocols to kind of tell as well. And what they do is they'll do pingbacks for response, right? There's certain responses where you could kind of tell whether it's a bot or whether it's a person. So most virtual machines will be like a bot. So like if a person's like clicking, right? Or if they're actually moving or whatever in like a predictable way, it's like, okay, that's a person. Bots will have like predictable ways that they will like interact with the system. You're like, okay, well, this isn't a person using it, and they can like kind of snipe out all of those. I know, dude. Cloudflare's DDoS protection is really, really sophisticated once you start getting into it.
Yeah, I'm sure they have, worldwide block lists and
Yeah.
All algorithms. Like if you ever see a website where it'll come up and say Cloudflare and it'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're in a
That's it. Just, it's basically to prevent a machine, trying to open up the website 1,000 times in a second, or 10,000.
I'm also
times.
pretty sure, last I checked, Azure has a very similar protection system too, which is another reason why I'm really skeptical that it is a DDoS attack.
Yeah, they do.
Assuming they're actually using Azure. I would assume they weren't, again, from earlier, but I don't know. But if it's internal, right, if it is internal, if they're trying to make it seem like it's more popular, because think, what makes your game look more popular than it's so busy nobody can get into queue, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, obviously everybody wants to play this game. I should get into it, right? Like that would be a pretty good marketing strategy. It's something I would do.
Well, like, are there any problems with the game once people get in, or?
Yeah, a lot of people end up getting kicked from the game. Like, they'll be playing around, and then like 5 minutes in the round, they'll get kicked just because of service errors.
Yeah. I mean, Splatoon's experiencing that too.
Yeah. But you know what? I have a lot easier time believing that Splatoon is experiencing that from an actual overcapacity of people that are stressing the server than I do from Overwatch.
You think Overwatch is just bad programming or intentional?
I don't know. I think it might be a combination of malice and incompetence. Usually, Hanlon's Razor, without sufficient evidence, always assert incompetence over malice. But it's Blizzard, which is almost as sufficient evidence as you need to think that there might be some malice involved. But also, I think it is widely incompetent.
I don't know that they would be malicious against their own customers. I don't know.
Well, so it would be, though, if they think that the customers don't think so, right? So the malice would be putting their customers through hell on day 1 or 2 just to make the game seem more popular, so they'll keep trying to get in and get more people in overall, right? And if the customers don't know it's malice, they think they're actually just competing against other people, right, to get in.
I don't know that that's a good marketing strategy.
I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't think Square did it as a marketing strategy, but it did wonders for selling Endwalker after they finally put the game back up for sale again. Like, sales were through the roof.
Yeah. Well, they even, shut down sales and said, we're not selling anymore.
Which makes it more believable in there. Like, I have no problem. Like, I don't even think there's any malice involved on 14's end.
Yeah.
But it did show, like, the effect on sales and stuff like that I wouldn't be surprised if other companies started figuring out a marketing strategy around that.
Yeah. I mean, that was such a unique situation because all at once, Hasbin Gold and all these other World of Warcraft streamers were like, fuck World of Warcraft, we're going to play Final Fantasy. Yeah,
it had the biggest uptick in the community of all time just before the game came out. And a bunch of people were returning because they had done all the post Shadowbringer stuff and they're ready to do Endwalker now. The game's launching in like a month, and it was crazy.
Yeah. And and Final Fantasy 14 had been around for how long at that point?
Yeah.
Like half a decade?
Yeah,
longer?
But it's not without question to assume that they wouldn't think it would work for Overwatch, because even though near the end of its lifespan, Overwatch's numbers were pathetic, at its peak, Overwatch did really well. And a lot of these companies do look at its peak and like, well, it's a sequel, so we can probably restore hype, even though it hadn't been doing well for years. Like, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying I would believe it if, like, it came out and they said that, I wouldn't put it past them. But Blizzard's also, like, not half as competent as it used to be as well. So like it could be entirely incompetence. And especially when we look at what was the recent one? The Dragonflight, and we look at the launch of that and how awful that was and how disappointed people were because it looked like, well, there were some people who really liked it, but a lot of people were disappointed because some of the pre-product like advertisements and stuff kind of seemed like they were going to be doing more community focused things. They were going to be doing stuff that would actually give you more end game than just raiding. It seemed like they were pulling some notes from Final Fantasy, and then when Dragonflight actually comes out, the raids and stuff were really good. People loved the dungeons, but as far as the whole, it was more of the same. Classes became even more broken to where there were like points where you shouldn't, like there are classes you shouldn't play, and some that you definitely just should. Like there's a whole tier list of it. The whole Dragonflight thing is kind of stupid. And it broke a lot of stuff because they didn't balance it. So like they had to basically remove Dragonflight from being able to work in certain areas, and it was just like a whole fucking mess, just overall.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of people went over there, ended up bouncing right back to Final Fantasy. So I really just think Blizzard is really, really, really incompetent right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they'll ever be competent again. I don't know if they'll fix this ship.
Maybe Elon Musk needs to buy them.
Well, at this point, that means he would have to buy Microsoft, and I don't know if he has the money for that. That is a big purchase that the richest man in the world isn't even rich enough for.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
That's pretty much all I have to say about that too. I'm trying to think some other things on the docket. Let's see. Are there other things I was going to roast? I want to get all the roasting out of the way.
Pokimane wearing fake teeth.
Is there anything? I don't think there's nothing wrong with wearing fake teeth.
How did they find out?
I don't know. She took them out.
I guess she talked about it.
Oh. Hey, I mean, people have been having fake teeth for as long as you could carve wood or mold clay. Like, some of the earliest fake teeth were literally ceramics that people put into their mouth. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a controversy.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. Some people have bad teeth, and if you have the money to go to a dentist, they can fix pretty much anything.
Yeah. And when it comes to chewing, if you've lost any or whatever, or even if like you have a chipped tooth and you need like a fake half, it's way easier to chew your food with fake teeth than no teeth. So like,
true.
I don't know. I think that's, public figure, right, in the limelight. Everybody's super judgmental on the internet, and I'm like, you're probably gonna get old yourself someday. You may not have all your teeth your whole life. Like, don't be judging.
There's plenty of better things to criticize Pokimane for.
Yeah.
Don't focus on petty things that don't matter.
Oh, here's a funny thing. It was about the whole Rings of Power. Amazon said that they want to spend as little time between seasons of Rings of Power as possible. So basically, they don't want to wait for a schedule or whatever, because you know how if Netflix does something on schedule, it'll be the same time every year. They'll release the season as long as they're keeping to it. There's more of we want to spend the time that it takes for pre-production, production, and post-production, and then as soon as it's done, we want to schedule it to come out. I'm like, excuse me, with all the things you need to fix about this show, you want to spend as little time as possible?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering that because I saw someone said that they're panicking, that because they're rushing to season 2, and I'm like, why would they do that?
Rush?
That doesn't. If I were panicking about the show, or if I
would want to prolong season 2 and make people think that I'm going to make it way better than the first one was.
Yeah, if I was what's his name? Who's the owner? Why am I drawing a blank?
Jeff Bezos?
Yeah, if I were Bezos, I'd be like, all right, let's take a year off if we have to. You know, rework this thing. Maybe they could do anything. They could replace all the actors if they wanted to. I mean, that might not be the best idea, but at least replace all the writers. Get some people in there. Let's say, okay, season 1 was a clusterfuck. Do we redo season 1, or is there a way to shoehorn in or retcon or something to make season 2 work with the crap we've already got, but make it actually work? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you can do to make that work. Like, you could probably do something that definitely makes it better, but to make it work is like a completely different question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've watched little, you know, stories or, you know, mini documentaries on how TV shows and stuff have reworked characters and just, you know, found ways to just like completely turn around, you know, like a character that people are like, well, I like this character, but I hate, you know, they have potential, but there's something wrong about them. And
yeah,
you know, and half the problem is like these goofy things, like Galadriel riding on the side of her horse and going like that, and the orc like literally explodes. Did you see that?
Yeah. Now I could reframe that whole thing and make it seem actually Lord of the Rings. We could have Galadriel in a gown like she's supposed to be, riding sideways on a horse the way that you have to when you're in a dress, and as she runs by, she literally casts magic and blows the guy up.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like chanting it the whole time, like she's got to finish the spell before she comes up to this goblin with a spear that's gonna like knock her off the horse, and she finishes just in time. Like, you can make a tense situation like that and show off the prowess of somebody who's supposed to be a sorceress.
Yeah. Now, by the side of the horse, I mean, she leaned over.
I know, she's like literally
backwards.
almost sideways off the horse. Yeah.
It's like, how does that even work? But, yeah, I mean, if they just get rid of the goofy shit like that, you know, then it doesn't even have to change the writing at all. If it's just like, make the scenes make sense physically.
Well, the big problem, too, is even by this point in their lives, people like Elrond and Galadriel are supposed to be developed characters, so they shouldn't be the main characters of your story anyway, right? Because these elves, they're basically eternal. That's not to say that they don't have flaws, but they're not developing anymore, right? They're going to have the same flaws then that they still have in the Third Age, and that's a big problem because these characters have flaws in the Third Age that they just never get over because that's the type of beings they are.
Yeah. Yeah, the elves always struck me as just never really being...
They're unchanging beings. Like, maybe they'll go some during their pubescent area, but once they're adults, they're pretty much the way they're going to be for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they're not main character material. I mean...
You could put somebody like Legolas in there who is still a fairly young elf, right? Mm-hmm. And you can force him in situations that cause him to grow a little bit. But, like... These guys are already thousands of years old by the time you hit this point.
Yeah,
they're not growing. Because if they grew, you'd have to make them substantially worse than they are in the Third Age, like the versions that we've already seen. That's what you would have to, right? Because you can't solve any of like the pride problem that Elrond has in the Third Age or any like that still has to be there through his entire line. So that part of it, like that flaw, can never go away.
Yeah, like people have been talking about, well, you know, Galadriel is very arrogant and you know, and pig-headed and all this stuff. And it's like, and you know, that maybe she'll learn and grow. And it's like, why would she learn and grow over the course of 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 years when she's already like 3,000 years old?
Yeah, like you can make an argument that maybe she's just never been in a situation for a specific type of growth, but like you have to nitpick certain lessons, right? Because you have to say like, well, she never learned this lesson because she's never spent like an excess amount of time around this type of people, and maybe she'll have like some type of cultural growth, but it'll all be small. It'll be marginal bits of growth. It won't be like I learned to be brave or something like all these things would be stuff that she would have already learned in her life by now.
Mm-hmm. I hate to break it to you, Chad, but if you've been watching the show, you've already seen Saruman. Oh, no, Sauron. You've seen Sauron.
No, he says Saruman. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I misread
character.
that. Yeah. Spoiler alert, Sauron is one of the main characters of the show.
Yeah.
But, maybe you've seen Saruman. That could be the wizard. The wizard who dropped out of the sky. That could be Saruman. Like, we don't know.
What's funny is both Netflix and HBO had pitched other shows before this that got turned down. And some of their ideas just sound better.
Hmm.
Ugh, gotta sneeze. Like one of them, they were going with a kind of like an Avengers, or Marvel style, where they were going to run multiple shows about different things. Most of them set in like the earlier parts of the Third Age. There was going to be a show about like Aragorn, and Gandalf was going to be in it and stuff like that too. And things like that, and they're just gonna go with like that whole Marvel approach in general. And HBO pitched a show that was basically just gonna be the Lord of the Rings. Like they were just gonna retell the Third Age events, but through show format. Which I think I remember that pitch coming out because people thought it was going to be a show at the time. It was like I'd watch it. I like the movies. Even the extended cuts are great, but there's still just so much things that I think that are actually important in storytelling that got cut out of them for the sake of time, something that like a TV series could do better because you've got all the time in the world in a season. But instead, both of those got turned down and we got stuck with this Second Age piece of crap that's not even based off of anything that was written.
Could just have a whole season that's just the adventures of Tom Bombadil.
Oh my god, I would love a show that is actually just the adventures of Tom Bombadil. That would be great. I would love that. I don't think it was supposed to be MCU humor. I think they were going with the whole interconnected stories in the universe when they say going Marvel's route. This was way back. This was the one that Netflix pitched as opposed to HBO. I think the HBO one would be the more serious of the two anyway, and that's the one I would have preferred. Because it's like, sure, you could talk about like Aragorn's early life, but like there's not much written about it, so you'd be mostly making a fan fiction anyway. I'd rather them just retell a story that's already told in long format. Or the Silmarillion. That was something I remember. I think that what Rings of Power was originally supposed to be when Amazon finally got their deal almost a decade ago now. Because I think I remember hearing about this back in like 2014 or whatever. It seemed like they were going to just be making a story based off the Silmarillion from start to end. But then we recently found out, they couldn't actually acquire the rights to the Silmarillion, and that's why we got the show that we got now.
Yeah. And they just conveniently waited for Christopher Tolkien to die so that they could just completely shit on it. And
I would have
the rest of his family.
A lore accurate TV, like long form series of the Silmarillion. Especially like there's this great scene where you have like the Maiar and the Vanar are like marching about to fight with like the eagles behind them. This entire just like infantry of Balrog in like the last half of it. And there's also like this huge dragon. It's like the son of Morgoth, and he is so big that he's like resting a foot on two different mountain peaks, and his wings are blotting out the sun. And like,
I remember
these scenes
that.
would be so good to see.
Yeah. There was a whole army of Balrogs.
Yeah. God.
Not just one.
The Silmarillion would have been so great.
Can you imagine how much? I really can't understand where the fuck the money went in this show. Because, House of Dragons just looks 10 times better and they spent like a tenth of the money
Yeah.
on it. Like, what the hell? I mean, I
No,
was
especially,
watching.
like,
Okay,
I don't know. A lot of their costumes, outside of like Galadriel's armor, actually looks really nice, right? But a lot of their costumes look like Ren Fair costumes. Like they didn't even put the budget into making their characters look good.
can I just say this? So in the last episode, there's a. I guess this will be a bit of a spoiler. Spoiler alert.
Who cares if this show gets spoiled? It's so
Yeah.
bad anyway.
I know. But in the last episode, there is a scene where a dam, basically the spillway or whatever you call it, the dam opens up. It doesn't break, but it actually just opens up in like two different places, and a whole bunch of water comes out. It's you know, it doesn't matter where it's going. Holy shit! It looked so bad. It was like, it's a model. It was so very clearly zoomed in on a model train set, you know.
Oh, like this was a B movie from the 70s or something like
God.
that?
Yes! It looked like that. I was watching this and I'm like, oh my God, that looks terrible. Like, I saw there was better, you know, the scene in, is it the Two Towers where the Trents or the Ents, you know, break the dam and it floods Isengard. Like that looked, that looked kind of fake, but it looked so much better than this did.
Yeah,
this was like
that one
shit,
looked kind of fake because they did a basically what you would do for an establishing shot, and they shot the real scene, but then like they had to add obviously the Ents, all of the water, some of the trees falling away, all in post. Because that obviously they could not do a practical version of that effect without possibly destroying the New Zealand countryside. And it honestly looked good for its time with special effects, but it looked so out of place because so much of those movies were done in practical effects. Almost everything with the Ents felt a little out of place because it was one of the few things that weren't done mostly with practical effects. Same with like the sweeping shot of the city of Gondor felt really out of place because Gondor was mostly a 3D model outside of like a few of the Horizon side like sets that they built where it was like green screen so they could show the horizon. But like a lot of Helm's Deep, I believe the main shot of it was digital, but they had so many set pieces of physical parts of Helm's Deep to make it look practical. The city of Rohan, I think, actually was built at one point in time. It's not standing anymore, but like that was made to look entirely practical. A lot of the Shire's still standing. That you can go and see it. Like so much of those movies were practical that anytime there was a digital effect, it kind of stood out.
Yeah. Well, this scene and this was in the last episode of Rings of Power. It was shockingly bad. I was so surprised. I was like, that has to be seriously, it looked like one of these like stop motion or whatever, you know, scenes from the 70s where it's like I almost expected like a stop motion giant scorpion to go walking by or something. Yeah. It's like the water is so clearly a model, like in slow-mo and all that stuff. It was like so bad. I can't believe
that is the worst part of a model, right? You have to slow it down because otherwise, proportionately, the water just runs too fast.
Yeah. I was like, good Lord, in this day and age, and considering how much money went into this, surely they could have done better.
And the worst part with models, too, is like you have to put like a little tiny bit of blue dye in there because the water looks too clear when it's that small. Yeah. It doesn't have like the viscosity that like a dam bursting and flooding would actually look like it has.
Yeah, and with the blue, I guess it needs to be like look like it's reflecting the sky and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and also that it's like thick. Like there's so much water that the light doesn't just go straight through; it gets caught in there.
Oh yeah.
So there's like a shadow. It's almost like looking at the deep of the ocean, right? If you go down a little bit, the ocean above you actually looks clear because that's where all the light is. It looks like clear water. But if you go reverse it and you look down from the sky, the ocean looks dark because you're not seeing all the light reflected. You're actually just seeing light getting trapped down into the ocean where it starts to get dark. So it's all like a perspective thing. And thin water can only ever really look clear unless you put like some type of dye or starch to thicken it up or whatever.
So bad. It's weird because I saw people, you know, I watch weekly reviews by people like Shadiversity and, you know, Nerdrotic has been reviewing it every week. And they mentioned the fact that the whole idea of the dam bursting or opening was dumb because there was the key to opening it was this sword for some reason. Like the whole purpose of this sword was to open this dam, which was just dumb.
Why would you make a dam like that? Why would you forge a sword for it? You know, like there's all kinds of questions here.
Yeah, why is that the only key, and why is that sword a key to this dam? But I thought that was a much smaller question than why does this scene look so fucking bad? It looks so terrible.
Yeah. Like, you know what would be a better way? If the sword wasn't the key to the dam and there was actually like this big metal block key that needs to go in like this contraption at the top, and they go to turn it, but the key's so old that it breaks. So like, you know, somebody with their nearly indestructible elven sword sticks it in and then uses like the hand guard to turn it for leverage.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah. But like, if you set it up differently, like, oh, the actual key was too old and broke. Let me stick my nearly indestructible sword in there. Haha, I managed to do it. Like, you could have added some tension, like it's a last-second idea or whatever. But clearly, like, they don't write things to be tense either, at all.
Yeah. There's so many like things that like I feel like the writers like had this idea, and they were just like, I want to have this mysterious sword, and it turns out it's a key.
Yeah.
But they don't set it up right, and it's just like
the fucking dagger in episode 9 of Star Wars that makes no fucking sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same exact thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we have this grandiose idea of this MacGuffin that's going to be this, and it's going to have this unexpected utility to do this or that. And then they don't set it up in a way that makes any sense.
It's because they're not writing a story, right? And we saw this, I think, who was it? Maybe it was the Russos. It was some MCU guy was talking about this, but this is kind of like how all movies are done now. And TV shows, for the most part, are kind of done in the same manner, where they have ideas for cool scenes. Like, this is a scene I want to do, this is a scene I want to do, and then they try to find a way to piece those scenes together instead of writing a story from beginning to end and figuring out, like, how does this narrative weave?
Yeah, that's exactly it, because it's like, it makes no sense, because it's like, okay, it's an evil sword that was supposedly created by Sauron or whatever, but why would he have this ridiculous plan of like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. He had to have built the dam and then made the sword and then hit the sword. And
the Sauron in this show, honestly, especially because like the way he's hanging out with people too, he's kind of like a trickster character. Like, they don't want him to know he's actually Sauron, he's the bad guy or whatever. He kind of he's Dick Dastardly. He has the competency of Dick Dastardly, and that's actually a reason why nobody has found him yet. It's not even because he doesn't want to be found. He's Dick Dastardly.
Yeah.
They
and his plans are
if they saw him.
it's like a Rube Goldberg type thing, you know. This goes to this to this. It's like
I already won the race. I'm ahead of all of you, but I'm setting up this trap anyway. That's costing me.
Exactly. And will go wrong if any of 100 different steps doesn't go perfectly.
And then he sits there and he waits. He could have just kept going. He could have just won the race, but no, he's sitting there waiting to see the trap unfold, and then it doesn't, and it costs him. It's like, dude, you were ahead. You were minutes ahead. You could have lapped these people if this was a racetrack.
Yep, that's Sauron.
That's just him.
So terrible.
We're coming to the end here. Let me catch up on the chat real quick. Cross Comics says he finally watched Star Trek Discovery 3 and 4. My condolences. And must say they're better than seasons 1 and 2. That's a very, very low bar. An STD is still an STD. Joshua comes in saying, it's a me. Still haven't watched Star Wars Episode 9. Good for you. Don't bother.
Lucky.
And Fizzoso comes in and says, hi, everybody. And I don't know, Agua Man 275 is a Spanish way of saying like Aquaman, I guess. Says H. And it's fine. They came in late, but we
H to you too.
Yeah. Happy H. I did have some other things to talk about, but we kind of went on a little too long on certain things because it was roast day, and anytime you get into roasting things, it can take longer than you intend. So just a couple of the things I did want to say. For some reason, Bleach 1000 Year War Blood War arc is going to be on Hulu or Disney Plus, which I fucking hate. Why? That's Bleach, the anime is coming back. Bayonetta 3 director has confirmed that Jennifer Hale, who's been in a lot of anime, is going to be the new voice actor for Bayonetta. I don't know why they couldn't just work with the old one. I voices kind of make a character. There was one other thing.
Should have had Chris Pratt.
As Bayonetta. Oh god, that was awful. And Suda51 says that No More Heroes could be getting a 4th game, which I'd be happy for. I love No More Heroes. I think. Oh, and actually, there was one more. CD Projekt Red's co-founder is standing down. The joint CEO, which only makes me think that worse things are ahead for CD Projekt Red as they become even more corporate. So, whoopee.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, thank you all for watching the show. If you enjoy the show, please consider sharing it with somebody else who might like it. The more the merrier. Let's get more people in these shows. We have a fixed schedule, people. It's okay if you come late, but unless you have a good reason, it's kind of on you. If you really enjoy the show, consider supporting us at streamlabs.com/Vomitorium we really appreciate it. Soda Fund. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
youtube.com/vomitoriumlive.